Have you ever dated a woman who didn't break your heart suddenly, but eroded your peace slowly, quietly, almost without you realizing it? You know the kind of connection I'm talking about. The one that starts out exciting, magnetic, hypnotizing even, but ends with you staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering how the hell you became a version of yourself you don't even recognize. It's that strange feeling of walking in alive and walking out confused, drained, and disconnected from your own center. And here's the uncomfortable truth most men never say out loud. Some women don't ruin your life dramatically. They drain you drop by drop. And what makes it even more dangerous is this. Men are naturally drawn to certain emotional patterns in women without understanding the psychological mechanics behind them. Today, I want to reveal something most men never figure out until it's too late. The 6 types of women you should never fall in love with. Not because they're bad people, but because their emotional patterns will quietly dismantle your peace, your purpose, and your identity. And once you see these patterns, you won't just avoid heartache, you might save yourself years of emotional damage. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like a relationship pulled you into a role you never signed up for? The hero, the emotional nurse, the designated rescuer, or the convenient villain. If any of that sounds familiar, keep listening. Let's start with the first type, the one most men confuse with passion or chemistry. Type 1, the chronic drama queen. I want you to imagine meeting a woman who feels electric. Every conversation is intense. Every moment feels alive. She laughs loudly, loves deeply, feels everything in high definition. For a while, you think you've met someone who brings color back into your life, someone who lives with a full heart, full volume intensity. But here's the twist. She's not addicted to you. She's addicted to chaos. Psychologically, she lives on what I call the chaos dopamine cycle. Her nervous system is so used to emotional turbulence that calmness feels like withdrawal. Stillness terrifies her. Peace makes her uneasy. Silence feels like abandonment. Chaos is her comfort zone. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because drama is the only emotional terrain she knows. Let me tell you a story I've seen play out hundreds of times. A guy meets this woman. Let's call her Emily. Emily is vibrant, magnetic. She turns every room into a stage. The first month feels like fireworks. But by month 3, he's exhausted. He realizes he's not in a relationship. He's in a storm with no evacuation plan. Every small thing becomes a crisis. A late reply means, you don't care anymore, do you? A quiet moment means, why are you pulling away? A difference of opinion becomes, I can't believe you would choose to hurt me like this. And here's the pattern you must memorize. She moves through life, leaving emotional fires everywhere she goes. Conflicts with friends, constant issues at work, ongoing feuds with family, drama with every ex. She doesn't just feel emotions, she broadcasts them at maximum volume. The relationship swings between high highs and devastating lows. And without realizing it, you get pulled into one of 2 roles. The hero who saves her, or the villain she battles. There is no middle ground. And the longer you stay, the more your peace shrinks. Your emotional baseline becomes survival mode. You're not building a relationship, you're managing turbulence. Let me ask you this. Have you ever caught yourself walking on eggshells with someone? Or rehearsing your words before saying anything? That is the trademark sign that you're dealing with a chronic drama queen. Now, don't get me wrong. These women are not evil. They're emotionally conditioned. They grew up in environments where chaos meant connection and calmness meant distance. But here's the bottom line. If you sacrifice your peace to maintain someone else's emotional storm, You will eventually lose yourself. Pause for a second. Think back to your past. Did you ever experience this pattern? If yes, drop a comment later. I guarantee you're not alone. Now, if the drama queen drains you through intensity, the next type drains you softly, sweetly, and almost invisibly. Type 2, the manipulative nice girl. At first glance, she seems perfect, soft-spoken, supportive, thoughtful. She remembers the little things you say. She sends encouraging messages. She apologizes quickly. She never raises her voice. You start thinking, wow, finally, a peaceful woman. But here's what most men miss. Her kindness is not generosity, it's camouflage. She practices what I call micro-love bombing, tiny doses of affection designed to hook you emotionally without overwhelming you. Just enough sweetness to make you trust her. Just enough warmth to make you feel special. Just enough tenderness to make you lower your guard. But underneath all of that, her main tools are guilt, obligation, and self-doubt. Let me paint the picture. You're dating a woman. Let's call her Lena. She's lovely. She bakes you cookies. She checks in on your day. She tells you she's proud of you. And then one day, after you set a perfectly normal boundary, she says, I guess I just care too much. I didn't know it would bother you. Suddenly, you feel bad for something that wasn't even wrong. Suddenly, you're the one explaining, reassuring, apologizing. She didn't get angry. She got disappointed. And that small emotional slump forces you into fixing mode. That's her power. Here are the patterns to look for. She uses soft guilt instead of direct communication. Her compliments often hide a sting. You look great today. I thought you stopped caring about your style. Every conflict ends with you comforting her instead of addressing the actual issue. She avoids taking responsibility by framing herself as too caring, too emotional, or too thoughtful. You slowly shift from loving her to managing her emotional state. And one day you wake up realizing this. You're not in a relationship. You're in a trap made of silk. Men get stuck here because the manipulative nice girl doesn't trigger your defenses. She doesn't shout. She doesn't disrespect. She sabotages you with subtle emotional pressure, the kind that makes you feel obligated to stay even when something feels off. Let me hit you with a hard truth. Not all manipulation comes with anger. Some of it comes with softness, sweetness, and perfectly timed vulnerability. Have you ever felt like leaving someone, but guilt kept you there instead of love? If that resonates, say so in the comments later. I want to hear your story. Because once you understand this pattern, you'll stop confusing comfort with control. Now, these first two types drain your emotional energy, but the next types, they drain your identity, your direction, even your future. So in part 2, we're going deeper into the women who turn relationships into ladders, therapy sessions, illusions, and performance zones. Before that, quick question for you. Have you ever dated someone who subtly changed who you were without you realizing it until much later? If your stomach just tightened, part 2 is going to hit home. Let's pick up where we left off. If the drama queen drains your peace, and the manipulative nice girl drains your emotional clarity, then this next type, she drains your future. Type 3, the serial social climber. There's a unique kind of woman who doesn't see relationships as connections, but as strategies. Not consciously evil, not necessarily selfish, just psychologically wired to optimize her life through status, access, and opportunity. Let me show you how this works. Imagine meeting a woman. Let's call her Ava. She's elegant, confident, socially sharp. She asks you thoughtful questions. She's curious about your goals, your career, your lifestyle. At first, you're impressed. You think, finally, someone who's ambitious like me. But slowly, the pattern reveals itself. Her curiosity is not intimacy, it's assessment. It's like every conversation is a survey she's quietly conducting. Who do you know? What rooms can you get into? What doors can you open? What kind of lifestyle can you extend to her? To a social climber, people are not partners, they're letters. Not because she's heartless, but because she's operating from a worldview where status equals safety. If she's been raised to believe that proximity to success equals worth, she will naturally chase the highest value connection available. Not emotionally, strategically. Here are the signatures of this type. She lights up around high-status environments, luxury venues, exclusive events, elite circles. She's terrifically charming around successful people, almost like a performance. In private, effort is low, but expectations are sky high. When you're doing well, she's affectionate, but if you plateau, or worse, start declining, her warmth evaporates. Let me tell you a quick story I've seen countless times. A successful young man begins dating a woman who seems supportive. But during every meetup, she brings up people he knows. So, do you think you could introduce me to your partner at the firm? I heard your friend runs events. Can we go next time? Do you think your boss will be there? I'd love to meet him. Her interest slowly pivots from you to the ecosystem around you. And the turning point comes when he stops rapidly advancing. Maybe he changes jobs or hits a plateau or chooses a slower, healthier life path. Suddenly she becomes distant. Suddenly she needs space. Suddenly she's not feeling the connection anymore. Because a social climber doesn't date you for who you are. She dates you for the trajectory you're on. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If a woman's attraction depends on your momentum instead of your character, you're not dating a partner, you're dating a career move. And trust me, you don't want to spend your life with someone who loves the view from beside you more than the man standing in front of her. Take a moment and be honest with yourself. Have you ever met someone who seemed more excited about your world than about you? If yes, you probably met this type. Now, if the social climber uses status, the next woman uses suffering. Type 4, the perpetual victim. This one is deceptively tricky. On the surface, she seems vulnerable, honest, even brave for sharing her pain. But underneath, her entire identity is built on one psychological foundation. Suffering equals connection. She carries a narrative of being wronged, mistreated, betrayed, misunderstood. And she uses that narrative, consciously or not, to bond with people through sympathy, not accountability. Let me introduce you to Samantha. On the first date, she opens up about her painful past. Her ex was terrible. Her family didn't support her. Her coworkers don't understand her. Life has been unfair for as long as she can remember. You feel bad. You feel protective. You feel like, maybe I can be the one who finally treats her right. But here's the psychological twist. Samantha doesn't actually want solutions. She wants emotional crutches. She wants sympathy without responsibility, comfort without change, attention without growth. And over time, you notice this repeating pattern. Every problem in her life is someone else's fault. Every story begins with, "You won't believe what happened to me again." Every ex was toxic, abusive, controlling, immature, but she never admits her own part. When things go wrong, she collapses emotionally instead of taking initiative. And eventually, you stop feeling like a boyfriend. You start feeling like a therapist. A tired, unpaid therapist. Let me ask you honestly, Have you ever been with someone who told you the same heartbreaking story again and again, but never took one actionable step to improve their situation? That's the perpetual victim. And here's the emotional cost. You feel trapped. You feel needed, but not appreciated. You feel responsible for her happiness, even though nothing you do is ever enough. Her entire emotional world sits on your shoulders, and you never agreed to carry that weight. A relationship with this type often ends in burnout, not heartbreak, because you don't leave out of anger. You leave because you realize you are drowning in someone else's unresolved life. Now, if the victim pulls you into emotional dependency, the next woman pulls you into emotional confusion. Type 5, the commitment-phobe in disguise. This woman is an illusionist. She doesn't reject love, she mimics it. She doesn't fear men, she fears emotional exposure. She doesn't run from relationships, she runs from being truly seen. And she does it so subtly that most men can't identify what's happening until they're in too deep. Let me introduce you to Mira. She gives you just enough closeness to keep you hooked and just enough distance to keep you chasing. This creates what I call the intimacy rhythm. Push, pull, push, pull. She'll have nights where she opens up deeply, looks at you like you're the only man on earth, and makes you feel chosen. Then, days later, she becomes distant, distracted, suddenly busy, suddenly unsure of what she wants. And just when you think she's fading away, she returns with warmth, softness, and emotional intensity, just enough to reset your hope. You begin living on emotional breadcrumbs. Your nervous system becomes addicted to inconsistency. Here are the classic signs. She avoids defining the relationship. Let's just enjoy the moment. Her history? A trail of almost relationships, situationships, and unfinished endings. When you open up emotionally, she compliments you, but doesn't reciprocate with her own vulnerability. She's incredibly loving when she initiates it. She becomes cold when you seek clarity. And the psychological truth behind it all? She loves the chase, not the commitment. She loves the fantasy of intimacy, not the responsibility of partnership. She loves being desired, but fears being known. Men get trapped here because the relationship feels like it's almost something real, almost committed, almost official, almost yours. But almost is the emotional cage, because as long as you're almost chosen, you'll keep hoping, you'll keep investing, you'll keep proving, you'll keep waiting for the moment she finally decides you're enough. But she won't. Not because you aren't enough, but because she's emotionally wired to avoid the kind of closeness that requires consistency and accountability. Let me ask you one thing and be brutally honest with yourself. Have you ever felt like you were in a relationship, but also not in a relationship, but also too deep to walk away? If yes, you've met the commitment phobe in disguise. We've covered 5 types so far, each one draining you in a different way. But the 6th type, she doesn't attack your peace, your future, or your freedom. She attacks your identity. And after that, we hit the twist, the big revelation that ties all 6 types together in a way most men never see coming. So before we continue, I want you to think for a moment. Which of these 5 patterns has shown up in your life the most? And more importantly, what did it cost you? Let's dive into the final type, the one most men overlook because she appears polished, intentional, and deeply caring, until you realize she's quietly shaping you into someone you no longer recognize. Type 6, the controlling perfectionist. This woman doesn't control through aggression. She controls through concern. She doesn't manipulate with chaos. She manipulates with, I just want what's best for you. Her entire psychological world runs on one rule: control equals safety. It's the coping mechanism she built long before you arrived, often from childhood environments where unpredictability felt dangerous. So now, as an adult, she creates a universe where everything must run according to her standards, her systems, and her emotional logic. At first, it feels flattering. She notices every detail about you. She remembers what you like. She encourages you to improve. She keeps your life organized, structured, polished. You think, wow, she really cares. But slowly, subtly, there's a shift. The same traits that once felt supportive begin to feel suffocating. Let me paint the picture with a story. A man, let's call him Daniel, starts dating a woman who seems incredibly attentive. She straightens his collar, she adjusts his schedule, she reminds him of things. She suggests better ways to do everything from eating to speaking to dressing. Small things, harmless things, endearing things. Until one day, Daniel realizes that every decision he makes passes through an invisible filter. What would she think? Will she approve? Will this start an argument? Is this good enough? That's the moment he realizes the shift has already happened. He's no longer choosing freely. He's performing. The controlling perfectionist doesn't explode, she corrects. She doesn't yell, she disapproves. She doesn't demand, she suggests strongly. And over time, those suggestions become expectations. And expectations become standards. And standards become pressure. Here are the unmistakable signs. She micromanages how you speak, dress, plan, socialize, or even rest. Her criticism ratio quietly outweighs her appreciation ratio. She frames control as care. I'm only telling you this because I love you. She pushes you towards her version of better, not yours. You begin shrinking parts of yourself to maintain peace. The dangerous part? She genuinely believes she's helping. And that sincerity makes it harder for you to recognize the boundary erosion. Men caught in this dynamic slowly lose their sense of identity, not dramatically, but inch by inch, compromise by compromise, until they're emotionally exhausted and spiritually muted. If any part of this hits you in the gut, breathe. You're not alone. A lot of men fall for this type because she seems stable, structured, and nurturing in the beginning. But now that we've covered all 6 types, it's time for the twist. The truth most men never see until it's too late. Let me bring all these patterns together in one line. Drama queen, nice manipulator, social climber, perpetual victim, commitment-phobe, perfectionist. They look different on the surface, but they're built on the same psychological foundation: emotional imbalance. Different expressions, different behaviors, different triggers, but one underlying truth. These women don't need relationships. They need regulation. And they use men as their emotional regulators. That's why these relationships drain you. Not because you chose bad women, not because you're not good enough, not because you weren't masculine, patient, loyal, or loving enough. It's because you were pushed into a role you were never meant to fill. The fixer, the rescuer, the stabilizer, the emotional provider, the therapist, the ladder, the safety net. Let me give you the insight that frees a lot of men instantly. You don't need to change women. You need to choose women whose emotional patterns don't require you to abandon yourself. Read that again. Let it sit in your chest for a moment. Because most men chase chemistry, then end up sacrificing identity. then wake up realizing they lost years trying to fix what was never theirs to fix. Let's wrap this up cleanly. The 6 types to avoid. 1. Drama queen. Chaos disguised as passion. 2. Manipulative nice girl. Soft control through kindness. 3. Social climber. Status over connection. 4. Perpetual victim. Sympathy without accountability. 5. Commitment-Phobe. Intimacy without responsibility. 6. Controlling perfectionist. Care disguised as control. But here's a deeper message. Attraction is instinct, but selection is identity. This is what separates men who simply fall in love from men who lead their love life with clarity. Peace matters more than chemistry. Boundaries matter more than desire. Emotional maturity matters more than beauty, charm, or intensity. And if you ignore the patterns, you don't just lose time, you lose yourself. Before you open your heart again, remember these rules. Observe patterns, not promises. Words are easy. Behavior is honest. Look for consistency, accountability, and reciprocity. Healthy women do them naturally. You don't have to beg. Set boundaries early, clearly, and confidently. If she respects them, she respects you. Choose women who bring emotional stability, not emotional storms. Your peace is not negotiable. And finally, a healthy relationship doesn't require you to shrink, stretch, rescue, or perform. It allows you to stay fully yourself and still be loved. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 patterns have you encountered in your life, and what did it teach you? Drop it in the comments. Your story might help another man avoid a mistake you already survived. If this video gave you clarity, hit like. More men need this message. Subscribe if you want deeper insights into female psychology and modern relationships. And lastly, share this video with someone who's dating one of these 6 types. It might be the wake-up call he's been avoiding.